So if you're watching this video right now and you're thinking about buying a home, you have to understand this. Cash sucks. I'm going to explain why. Hi, Scott, Liberty Home Mortgage. I do mortgage loans. I'm a loan officer. I guess I'm a lot more than that, I suppose, to an extent. But at the end of the day, I tell people I do mortgages. I'm going to focus this topic on this part of the transaction. There's a lot of other things we have to worry about. I'm going to worry about this one. A big part of qualifying for a mortgage is verifying where the money's coming from to close on your house. So we have to verify where the money comes from. Not that there's 1,000 different types of loans out there. There's not. There's a few. But all of them require us to verify the source of the money. Let's just pretend you need $5,000 for a down payment on a house. So for that $5,000, there's something called eligible sources and ineligible sources. Well, Hash, why is that ineligible? Whoever wrote these guidelines, God knows when, okay, why did they make 20 miles an hour in a school zone? I don't know why a school zone is 20 miles an hour. But at some point in human history, somebody, some person somewhere said, let's make it 20 miles an hour. And the next thing you know, every school zone in the United States, you can't go more than 20 miles an hour through the school zone, okay? So these are the rules, these are the guidelines, and that's just that. So you have eligible sources of funds, you have ineligible sources of funds. Now, how do we verify those funds? We look at the deposits going into your bank account that you are using for the transaction. So in other words, if you have a bank account at ABC Bank and another account at XYZ, but you only give me ABC, then I don't care what the hell you put in XYZ. I don't care about that bank account. If I'm not using it on the transaction, I don't care about it. But what I am going to focus on is the accounts for ABC. Pay attention to this. You are going to give me typically your last 2 months of bank statements. Not all loans require 2 months of bank statements. Some programs, or sometimes when we're doing a loan for somebody, we only require 1 month of bank statements or 30 days of transactions or something like that. But I need your last 2 months of bank statements. When you give me that bank statement, every single deposit, and this is the key statement, we are going to look at every single deposit and we are going to ask, where did that money come from? Now, there's certain guidelines. I always confuse them a little bit because you start getting into the details and getting super granular with it. I always double check myself, but that's why I really never make mistakes on loans, okay? Something for you is, on conventional, I want to say if the deposit is less than 50% of the gross monthly income being used to qualify the loan, we don't have to verify the source. Wonderful. FHA, I want to say if the deposit it's less than 1% of the balance of the loan, but it also has to be regular and normal for the bank account we're looking at. So in other words, I actually had this happen once, okay? And we are a direct lender, okay? We are a lender. So we interact with HUD, FHA, VA, those agencies when we go to insure our loans, okay? I'll never forget this one. We had this one where the customer needed like $3,000. So what they did was the loan was for, let's just say it was for $120,000. Well, FHA had a guideline that any deposit on a daily basis, less than 1% of the loan amount, you have to ask for where the money came from. So the borrower did was deposit like $200 a day for like 30 days. Essentially, like it's following the guideline, but it's unquestionably not necessarily the spirit of the guideline, right? So there's a difference there. You have the guideline, you have the spirit of the guideline. So when we closed and funded that loan, when we went to HUD to get the loan insured, HUD said they're not going to insure it because they said, even though the deposits met the guidelines, it failed in the spirit of the guidelines. We should have asked where the deposit came from. These are the two biggest reasons why we ask for bank deposits. And no, it's not to see if you're running drug money across the border or something, okay? We want to make sure the seller's not giving you money, and we want to make sure you're not taking out loans to qualify for this loan. So when you show me your bank statement and I see a deposit going in for, let's say, $2,000, okay, I'm going to ask where that money came from. If it came from an ineligible source, a place that is not allowed, we have to subtract it and discount it off of the existing balance of your bank account. In other words, we have to pretend it's not there. So when you deposit cash, the problem with cash is that you cannot prove where it comes from. You cannot prove the source of cash. Think about this. When you have cash sitting at home in an envelope in your kitchen or under your bed, here's the truth. You cannot definitively prove where it came from. I don't care if you took out $5,000 cash yesterday and then today you say, Hesh, here's the cash. You cannot prove that the cash today is the cash that you took out yesterday. You can't prove it. And when you want to sit here and say it's the dumbest thing in the world, those are the guidelines. Follow them. I will tell you, cash is not, it's not good, okay? So the other thing is that when we look into your bank account of ABC, when I see a wire transfer from bank XYZ, suddenly you did not provide me with those bank statements. A question that I or a good loan officer is going to ask is, I want bank account XYZ to see that $1,000 that came from that bank account. Where did that $1,000 come from? You're going to then give me bank account XYZ. When I look at that bank statement, if there's cash deposits in it, I then can't use those, which means I eliminate the transfer over here. We paper trail the money. We start at the final resting spot of the money and then work our way backwards. It is intense. This is stuff that has to be done. And if you're working with the right loan officer, like me, I do loans in 45 states, and we're going to address all of those up front as opposed to 2 days before closing. But you have to subscribe to my channel, follow the rest of my videos, call me if you have questions. And by the way, put your questions in the comments. If you have questions on cash, ask away. Or if you want a loan or you just want to call me too. That's there also to do. My cell phone's all over the internet and the World Wide Web. I'll see you at the next one.